Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday, March 29th, 2024. Good Friday. Happy Good Friday. We are reading out of the Old Testament. Today we're going to start in the book of Esther. We're going to read chapter 1. All right, so Esther is an interesting book. It's one of the only books in the Bible that doesn't mention God directly at all, but yet God is on every page here. This takes place 480, 460 BC, somewhere in there. So somewhere between that first group of exiles that returned, but in between that first group and Ezra's group. Maybe a little bit before that. We're going to talk about King Ahasuerus of Persia. Also called Xerxes the First. In the Greeks, he's the Xerxes who in 480 fought the Spartans, if you remember Sparta. All right. What's going to happen in this first chapter? Well, we're going to set up this story. We're going to meet the king, and he's a pretty rotten king. Everyone's kind of afraid of him because he can do anything he wants. He decides he's going to have a feast, and he's going to do it right. He's going to have a 180-day feast. The end of this feast, he has another feast 7 days. It's kind of unclear whether that's a feast after the 180 days or if this is the last week of that 180 days, but that's where our story is going to kind of take place here at the beginning. Wine flowing everywhere, food, all you can eat. Now, ordinarily, the king of Persia, if he's going to eat and drink, you got to eat and drink with him. And everybody's got to eat and drink with him. But he relaxes the rules here a little bit, so it's kind of showing us as the king he can do whatever he wants. And he decides, hey, you know what? You don't have to drink with me if you don't want to. In fact, I want all the women to separate themselves. This is just going to be a guy's party. And again, you're under no pressure to drink. But as he gets to the end of this, he changes his mind. He decides, you know what? No, I want the queen to come here. So the queen's got to come here, and I want to parade her in front of all these men that are with me, these drunken men, because I want them to see her beauty. And the queen says something that a queen should not do to the king of Persia. She says, no, I'm not going. And now the king is furious. And he goes to his people that he's with and surrounds him. Memucan is one of those people, and he asks their advice, and Memucan says, hey, you know what? You can't let her get away with this. If you let her get away with this, well, women are going to think they can do whatever they want. They're going to not deny their husbands. They're not going to cook. They're not going to clean. They're not going to do stuff like that. There's going to be human sacrifice. Dogs and cats are going to live together. It's going to be mayhem. Pretty sure he was one of the ones that was drinking with him. King buys it, and he calls in his queen, and he says, you know what? You're out. And that's the end of her. We'll get a little bit mention of her tomorrow, but she's gone. She's out of the story. So we see the awesome power of this king. On his whims, he can do whatever he wants. Now, there is a rule in Persia that when a king issues a decree, passes a law, that law cannot be changed, although he can modify it with a later law. And that'll come into play as we get on to the story. But once the king decrees something, it's got to happen. So let's go ahead and we're going to read Esther chapter 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this was the Ahasuerus who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. In those days when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the citadel, that in the 3rd year of his reign he made a feast for all his officials and servants, the powers of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes of the provinces being before him. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the splendor of his excellent majesty for many days, 180 days in all. And when these days were completed, the king made a feast lasting 7 days for all the people who were present in Shushan, the citadel, from great to small, in the court of the garden of the king's palace. There were white and blue linen curtains fastened with cords of fine linen, and purple on silver rods and marble pillars, and the couches were of gold and silver on a mosaic pavement of alabaster, turquoise, and white and black marble. And they served drinks in golden vessels, each vessel being different from the other, with royal wine in abundance, according to the generosity of the king. In accordance with the law, the drinking was not compulsory, for so the king had ordered all the officers of his household that they should do according to each man's pleasure. Queen Vashti also made a feast for the women in the royal palace, which belonged to King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Meroman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abagatha, Zethar, and Carcas, 7 eunuchs who served in the presence of King Ahasuerus, to bring Queen Vashti before the king, wearing her royal crown, in order to show her beauty to the people and the officials, for she was beautiful to behold. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command, brought by his eunuchs. Therefore the king was furious, and his anger burned within him. Then the king said to the wise men who understood the times, for this was the king's manner toward all who knew law and justice, those closest to him being Karshana, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsina, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, who had access to the king's presence and who ranked highest in the kingdom. What shall we do to Queen Vashti according to law, because she did not obey the command of King Ahasuerus brought to her by the eunuchs? And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Queen Vashti has not only wronged the king, but also all the princes and all the people who are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's behavior will become known to all women, so that they will despise their husbands in their eyes when they report. King Ahasuerus commanded Queen Vashti to be brought in before him, and she did not come. This very day the noble ladies of Persia and Media will say to all the king's officials that they have heard of the behavior of the queen. Thus there will be excessive contempt and wrath. If it pleases the king, let a loyal decree go out from him, and let it be recorded in the laws of the Persians and the Medes, so that it will not be altered, that Vashti shall come no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal position to another who is better than she. When the king's decree, which he will make, is proclaimed throughout all his empire, for it is great, all wives will honor their husbands, both great and small. And the reply pleased the king and the princess, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. Then he sent letters to all the king's provinces, to each province in its own script, and to every people in their own language, that each man should be master in his own house, and speak in the language of his own people. May God bless the reading of his word, and may God bless you. Happy Good Friday. Bye.